This video was produced by the Delaware Network for Excellence in Autism team at the University of Delaware's Center for Disability Studies. This prompting tutorial has been designed to support professionals and family members who wish to teach a person with autism a new skill or task. This evidence-based practice is appropriate to use across multiple settings. Please use the following citation guidelines when referencing this tutorial. When thinking about learning, it is helpful to consider the ABC model. Learning is a change in behavior as a result of an experience. When we adjust A, antecedents, and C, consequences, we can shape a person's experience to help them learn a new skill or task, known as the B, behavior. As an individual interacts with their environment and accumulates experiences, behavior will change, or in other words, that individual will learn. This learning can occur naturally. For example, a child touching a hot stove and getting hurt learns not to touch the stove or something hot, but sometimes we need to be very explicit about teaching these behaviors. When we think about the entire process of learning, A, B, and C, it is important to understand that all of the components work together. In order to systematically teach a new skill or task or behavior, we must first consider what we are teaching and how we are going to systematically break down that content into the smallest pieces possible to teach. Therefore, we will begin by considering behavior. Behavior is defined as an observable and measurable act of an individual in response to their environment. Behavior is something we can see, ideally with a clear beginning and end. In addition, a behavior should be defined in such a way that it can be accurately counted. Behavior must be defined with a level of specificity that someone else observing the individual could also measure it. When discussing behaviors, it does not only include challenging behaviors, but also social and communication skills, self-help, academic, job skills, and so on. Behaviors can include waving hi, dancing, writing, and clapping. Behaviors we are trying to teach often fall into two categories, discrete or chained. A discrete behavior or task requires a single response and is of relatively short duration. A chained task is a complex task or skill that is made up of several individual behaviors. These individual behaviors are chained or sequenced together to form a more complex skill. Here are some examples of discrete versus chained tasks. Selecting a picture, lifting a weight, and identifying letters are all examples of discrete tasks because they have one single response. Filling out a job application, solving long division, and washing your hands are all examples of a chained task because they require short, individual behaviors to be chained together in a sequence to make up a complex task. A task analysis is an evidence-based practice used to break down complex, chain behaviors into small, discrete steps. Task analyses treat each step as a discrete skill that can be systematically taught one by one until the entire chain is mastered. Task analyses can be used to teach a wide variety of skills such as cooking, using a computer, self-care, or self-management strategies. Additional information about creating and teaching a task analysis can be found in our task analysis video tutorial and resource guide. Now we will discuss consequences. Specifically, we will discuss reinforcement. Reinforcement is any stimulus change following a behavior that increases the likelihood a person will engage in that behavior again in the future. A stimulus is a thing or event that evokes a response. Some examples of possible reinforcers may include money, praise, cupcakes or other treats, good grades, iPad use, music, toys, or alone time. There are two types of reinforcement, positive and negative reinforcement. Both positive and negative reinforcement increase the likelihood of a future behavior occurring again, but through either the presentation or removal of a stimulus. When using positive reinforcement, you would add the stimulus, which would increase the likelihood of the behavior occurring again. When using negative reinforcement, you would remove the stimulus, which would also increase the likelihood of the behavior occurring again. Remember, negative reinforcement does not equal punishment. If you do not see an increase in future behavior, it was not reinforcement. When we think of the ABC model, we think of the antecedent as immediately preceding and resulting in a specific behavior. With new skills, we need to add prompts initially to help an individual attend to and appropriately respond to the antecedent. Our goal is to help the individual begin to consistently respond to the antecedent on their own. For example, when an individual hears the antecedent of a fire alarm, they know to evacuate the building. However, if it is the first time this individual has ever heard a fire alarm, they may require prompting to know to line up and walk out of a specific door. They could be verbally coached to do so until they are able to participate in fire drills safely on their own. Before moving on, I would like to discuss cues. Sometimes a learner may not know to attend to an antecedent. For example, when a delivery person walks into a place of work, an established employee would know to get a pen, check the delivery boxes for accuracy, sign the clipboard, then direct the delivery person as to where to drop off the delivery. However, a new employee may need to notice and approach the delivery person. In this case, we may add a cue or a discriminative stimulus of, a delivery person has arrived. We would offer additional prompts such as verbally describing each step of the process or referencing a visual task analysis of the procedure. Going back to our fire alarm example, if an individual has been at school for a while, they know exactly what to do. But if it's been a while, teachers might need to add a cue such as, we're having a fire drill, or follow the fire drill procedure for individuals to respond correctly. If it is the first time that the individual has heard a fire drill, a cue probably won't work by itself, so that is when we add prompts. A prompt is any additional or necessary information that's needed to guide a person to engage in the appropriate behavior. So what is prompting? Prompting is an evidence-based strategy that involves providing any type of assistance to a learner to help them perform a specific skill or behavior. Prompting can be applied across different domains and contexts and can be used with discrete or chained skills. Prompting helps individuals with autism because it clarifies expectations, increases predictability and independence of a task. Not only does the prompting help individuals with autism, but it can also be used for any person who is learning a new skill. Prompting increases the rate of skill acquisitions while decreasing frustration. There are two different types of instructional prompts. They are stimulus and response prompts. We are going to talk about each of these categories and the accompanying type of prompts associated with each category. Stimulus prompts are when we make some changes to the materials that are part of the skill being taught. There are generally three types of stimulus prompts: positional prompt, a reduction in the field, and a change in materials. Positional prompts move the appropriate responses or tools closer to the person. For example, you can see that the drink of water is closer to the individual. A reduced field prompt takes away potential distractions or potential incorrect responses. You can see that now there is only 3 shapes to choose from instead of 5. A change in materials adds a cue to the already existing materials. Here you can see an image of a dog has been added to a new sight word. When using a stimulus prompt, it is important to have a fading plan to systematically fade the support, as seen in the dog example. This can be slowly moving the item back to its original position, gradually adding more distractions to the field, or systematically fading a visual support. It's important to understand that stimulus prompts are not visual supports, which are considered permanent or semi-permanent materials that a person always has access to. Response prompts are considered in a hierarchy. These prompts are categorized from least to most intrusive or vice versa. These types of prompts will be explained in further detail. Gestural prompts provide information or clarify instructions through the use of movement or hand signals. Gestural prompts may include pointing or touching an object. Verbal prompts provide information or clarify instructions by providing verbal assistance. Verbal prompts may include giving a verbal cue, such as the beginning sound of the answer, or giving verbal directions to a person. It is important to note that verbal prompts can be very difficult to fade. A visual prompt is a picture or cue that the learner sees which provides additional information about the target behavior. Visual prompts can include an object, photograph, drawing, or written words. A model prompt is a demonstration of a target skill. It can be provided on a video or through a live model. A physical prompt includes physically guiding or touching a person to help them demonstrate the target behavior or skill. Physical prompts should be used sparingly and only when a person is non-responsive to a less intrusive prompt. If a person resists a physical prompt, it is important to stop immediately. When using a prompt, begin by gaining the person's attention. Next, deliver the cue you selected to initiate the target behavior. It is important to wait a predetermined latency to allow the person time to process and respond to the cue before delivering a prompt for non-response or an incorrect response. There are 6 different procedures for systematically introducing and fading prompts. You can find separate tutorials for each prompting procedure on the DNEA website. The DNEA helps the community stay informed by developing and distributing information and resources on issues that impact people with autism, their families, and the professionals who serve them. For additional resource guides, videos, and glossary of terms, please visit our website. Professionals are encouraged to visit our website or contact us for additional resources and support.